Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's meeting. You're a board member. Can you go ahead and turn your camera on and we'll get started. Danielle, are you able to turn your camera on?
Yes, I'm working on it. Need just a couple minutes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started while you're working on it then. So this is the March 17th, 2021 meeting of the Valley of the Sun Waldorf Education Association Board of Directors, better known as the DMS Board of Directors. So we have a fairly light agenda tonight in some respects. So I'll say the opening verse and I'll go over what we're going to cover tonight and we'll get to it. The true aim of education is to awaken real powers of perception and judgment in relation to life and living. For only such an awakening can lead to true freedom. That is Rudolf Steiner. So I am Gregory Schneider. I'm the board president. Joined today by 4 other board members and some guests, and we'll go around and introduce ourselves, starting with Dan.
I'm Dan Franks. I'm the board treasurer.
And Mr. Tanner.
John Tanner, board member.
And April.
April Sauer, board secretary.
And Danielle.
Danielle Martinez, board member, shortly to join via video.
and Mr. Maurizio. You're still on mute.
Oops, sorry. Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. I'm Frank Maurizio, executive director.
And then we have also Michelle Kratzer with us. Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Michelle Kratzer, parent council chair.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And Priscilla.
Hi, Priscilla Garza. I am Aspire Business Consultants.
Thank you. So welcome, everybody. We're glad you could be here. So we have, as I said, a fairly light agenda. We're going to go over some financial matters. We have some invoices to discuss and approve. We'll hear from Michelle about parent council. We'll hear from Frank about how the school is doing now that we are back in hybrid finally, much to the relief of many I know. And then we'll talk about anything related to COVID-19 that we need to. And then we'll wrap up some board procedural matters like approving the minutes and also reminding you about the timeline for applying to be a member of the board if you're interested in that. So let's get started on the financial aspect of it. So Priscilla, do you want to walk us through the latest financial statements? I'll pull them up.
Okay, if you want to pull up the profit and loss, we can start with that.
Sure. 1 second.
Okay, perfect. So this is the profit and loss for July through February 2021. As you can see, our income from individuals is income from individuals for tuition is $19,000. Our tax credit income is $7,868. Miscellaneous income is $46,154. Our state equalization payments are $1,613,000, and our federal revenue is $240,000 for a total income of $1,926,000. Okay, looking at the expenses, our regular expenses is $1,429,000. Expenses for the special education program is $186,000. Prop 301 expenses for the performance pay is $59,313. And we have 376 in accounting entries that we are pulling additional backup for. On the private program, the private side of the school, we have $2,525,000 for the extended program. And for the private KinderCare, $36,924. Adding in our depreciation of $100,000 for the year so far, we have a total expenses, and our net is $113,000. So we are looking at a profit right now of $113,111. I know the board receives the spreadsheet for the expenses and detailed the detailed information. Are there any questions on that spreadsheet? Try to be very thorough.
None for me on the spreadsheet. I think it's great news that we're sitting on net income right now of 113,000. I know at the beginning of this fiscal year, our target was 0 net income by the end of the year. We just wanted to break even. So this is significantly better news than I think we were expecting to have at this point in the year. I know you never know what's coming next, especially during these times, but are we thinking we're going to stay roughly in this range of net income over the next couple of months, or are there things coming up that will change that number significantly?
Well, in the first, 8 months of the year, the first 8 months of the year, you have federal income coming in for, let me see, there was a grant that was in there that's not going to continue. I was just looking at it. Hold on just one second. The ESSER grant, we have booked $47,000 for the first half of the year. And also the ESG stabilization grant is $125,000. So those two items total $172 total. So those items were one time for the first quarter. As we discussed our last meeting, there is an ESSER 2. So if we have expenses to support the usage of the ESSER 2 money, we can book the ESSER 2 money in the second half. So we could expect for it to mirror the first half, if that makes any sense.
It does. Essentially, if we have COVID-related expenses, which is what the ESSER money is for, we can use that in the second half of the school year.
Right.
I think we'll definitely have those types of expenses.
Right. And I know Monique is working with Frank on the ESSER 2 budget so that we can get the budget input into grants management and approved. And then as soon as we get the budget approved by grants management, Department of Education, we can go ahead and start drawing down funds.
Other questions, board members, about the profit and loss we're seeing here, or the more detailed notes Priscilla sent separately?
Okay. If you want to pull up the balance sheet, we can run through the balance sheet.
Sure.
Okay, so as you can see for our assets, the Chase checking account has $239,000 in it. The PayPal account has $2,533. The savings account has $66,740. So the total cash on hand at the end of February is $308,350. The accounts receivable is $200,806. And that $200,806 is $188,000 in equalization and $12,000 in the Prop 301. So those are the two items that make up that amount. There's a small balance in there for the rest of the IDA funds of $207, but that's it for the accounts receivable. There's no tuition receivable in there. It's only the equalization in the 301. We have prepaid expenses on the balance sheet of $894. Those are just expenses that we've prepaid, and we'll recognize that into the profit and loss from now till the end of the year. There are no changes in the fixed assets. Accounts payable, we have $15,602 in bills that we need to pay. In credit card debt, we have $388. Oh, you're pulling up a different balance sheet. Enough of my screen that I have. We usually look at number 6, but we can look at that. That's fine. I'm pulling the main totals. That's fine.
This is number 6 on what you sent.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mine looks a little different.
I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, this is number 6.
Okay, no, you know what, you're right. This is detailing out the credit card expenses. I thought the credit cards were all wrapped up in one, but I guess not. It's all the same. Sorry about that.
No.
So 388 in the credit card expenses.
Mhm.
And we have our liability accounts, payroll liabilities, and unearned revenue, the leases and deposits for the private program, 44,276. Our notes payable or our long-term debt is 1,420,000. And then we're down into our equity account. And again, you can see the net income is 113,111. Sorry about that. I was looking at my screen and then I transferred to your screen and I was like, oh, wait, it looks different.
Yeah, no worries. Questions from anyone? Okay. Well, it was an easy night for you, Priscilla.
Yeah, right?
Well, thanks very much for that. So, all right, we'll move on. I will stop sharing my screen and move on to the next thing on the agenda.
Hey, Gregory,
Yes,
can I mention something about Priscilla?
go ahead.
I'm not sure, I think you know, but Priscilla has had an opportunity to go become a dream of hers in an old job, and she's going to be leaving Aspire. And I can say, even in just 3 months on the job, I have relied heavily on Priscilla. She really understands this stuff backwards and forward and has been nothing but an asset to me in a new person in a training job. And I just am, and while I'm sad that she's leaving, I'm grateful and happy for her in her new path. I also want to assure you that I've been working with Monique this entire time as well. And Monique is going to be stepping into Priscilla's shoes. And I feel quite confident in that as well. I wanted to make sure you knew we were in good hands with Monique as well. But I just wanted to make sure we thank Priscilla for everything she's done. We're going to miss you, Priscilla. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but thanks for taking it so graciously. And thanks very much for all the work that you've done for the school.
Of course. Absolutely. Good luck to you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the next thing on our agenda is an enrollment update. And I looked at our enrollment spreadsheet the other day, and it looked like more good news on that front. But Frank, can you fill us in on where we are?
Yes. The last time we talked, we had 308 people fill out paperwork, and we had 80% complete the paperwork. Meaning apply. 308 applied for next year and 80% completed it. We're now at 92%, but it's kind of a fluid as new people have come in and requested to apply. Some have chosen to change their mind and move on. So the number hasn't grown from 308. There's still about 308. But the number that have completed the paperwork is kind of plateaued at about, I want to say, and I think I sent the numbers to each of you, and I don't have it in front of me. I want to say it was like 266 in 1 through 12, 36 in kindergarten, and 10 in the private program. The kindergarten is stable. We have 36 every year, and we have a waiting list still for kindergarten. The private program has gone up by 5, and we still have 6 more that are completing paperwork. So that could be as high as 16 from now to the end of the school year. So that's a positive too, because as you know, that's supposed to be a self-sufficient program. And we figured out that we need 9.7 to break even, 9.7 students to break even. And so right now we're at 10 with the hope of another 6. Even if we get 4 more, we'll be pulling in more than breaking even. And then the 266, there's still some paperwork out is the idea, and those families have not completed the entire packet. But we're still looking at a total of enrollment of finishing around 300. Now, we don't know what will happen in April and May or June, of course, but our numbers do look promising. This is a good sign.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's excellent. Questions, other board members? Okay. We'll carry on. So let me give a little background on this next agenda item. Our school has a computer software program called Tyler Sys that helps us report vast amounts of information about our enrollment and attendance and that sort of information to the state. It's called Tyler Sys, and they are in the process of upgrading their software system. And they've gotten to the point in their software cycle where they're saying everybody has to upgrade or we're not going to support you anymore. So they sent out an invoice to us saying, okay, here are your options. And due to the administrative changes over the last 6-8 months, that kind of fell through the cracks, and we discovered it again early this spring and found out, this is an expense we're going to have to budget for, and it's not an insignificant one. So then we started exploring, basically Frank and Deb started exploring, okay, is this our only option? Are there other providers, other vendors who could do this for us at a more competitive price? And so we got 3 quotes, including the one from Tyler. And Tyler is the least expensive by more than 50%, I think. Plus, they're willing to work with us on spacing out the timing of this payment and when we're doing this upgrade so that it's not such a financial impact. So I'll stop talking there, but Frank, do you want to add any details to that?
Yes. It's interesting. When this process began, Dan, Greg, and I were a little frustrated with Tyler that how can you change your product and charge us $17,000 for doing that when we didn't do anything? It's your product. And so we talked through some things and met with the gentleman from Tyler, and we decided, Greg, Dan, and I, let's start looking at some other options. And we did. But literally those other options came in at $33,000, $30,000. It wasn't even close. And in the meantime, I was able to get Tyler to lower the price to $14,000 from $17,000. And he agreed because our biggest issue, anytime you take a one-time hit of $17,000, well, in the end, it's going to be $15,200 because we have to pay the $1,200 yearly fee. So $1,500 in one fiscal year is a big budget item. And so I was able to convince him to let us pay in next school year in January, half of it. And then in next July, not this July, we will stay on Tyler on the current system one more school year. The following July of 22, we can pay the other $7,500. So he's letting us split the $15,000 into 2 payments of $7,500. So it's less of a hit on one budgetary fiscal year. And to tell you the truth, that's one of the things that sold Crystal and I. I want to give Crystal Lee some credit here. She has spent hours working on this with me. The Zoom interviews, we're all so sick of Zoom interviews. Oh my goodness. The hundreds of questions to make sure we're getting the same product. And of course that it works with the ADE system because that is critical. And so we believe this new system really is an upgrade. It will service our needs. It will work with the ADE system. And it's close to $17,000 less than the next product we liked. So in the end, even though we're spending some money, we believe this is the best deal out there and a product that will work with what we need.
Well, thank you both for doing that work and doing the due diligence there. I know that's a tedious process, so please give Crystal our thanks.
I will. Thank you.
And Frank, the reoccurring costs are cheaper as well, correct?
Yeah, slightly. It's not a lot for the yearly cost. Anyway, I think it went from $1,500 to $1,200. It would be nice when we're done paying those two payments of $7,500 that we're only going to have to pay $1,200 a year each year for the product. That's more like what we were used to.
Right.
Because we've been with them for a while now, and we paid our first big upfront payment a couple of years ago. And so we were used to just under a couple of thousand, and we'll get back to that after the initial cost, of course.
And comparing to the other two products, the reoccurring yearly annual cost is significantly lower.
Oh, yes. They wanted $552 and $6,200 a year.
I just want to call that out.
So Frank circulated the proposal from Tyler, and the terms that they're willing to agree to that he just explained. Any other questions on this before we take a vote on whether or not to approve the expense?
Oh, Danielle, you're muted somehow.
Might be muted on your phone, but not on Zoom, it looks like.
Oh, I think.
Mr. Cantor, do you have something you wanted a question?
I was wondering if Dan, if you had some opinion on this matter, since you're the whiz kid with computers.
I'm curious as to so I have a side curiosity as to what the other systems offer that makes them such a more costly system. But then at the same point, if the existing offering is functional for our school and it's half the cost of the other systems, there's not really a whole lot of risk for us if we decide in a year that we want a different system. It's not like we're saving a bunch of money by making that evaluation and choice now. So it seems like a prudent, especially given the timing, and they're willing to work with us and give us another year, way to approach this purchase and implementation.
Thank you.
Point of clarification. You may be wondering, well, why are we voting tonight on something that we're not even going to start getting trained on until next January? The deadline to choose the system is March 31st. We will not be paying anything out of this fiscal year. It will be in the 21-22 school year in January that we will get billed for the first half. But they have to know if we want to do it by this March 31st. That's why it's on this early of a board agenda.
Danielle, I want to give you one more chance to see if you got your microphone working. If you want to take 30 seconds and disconnect and reconnect, we'll wait for you. It's a significant expense. I Just want to make sure all voices are heard on this one. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Well, I'm not sure what happened there, but all right. So, any other questions or thoughts? Or Danielle, if you could email me a question, I could read it out. If that would work.
Or text as well.
So far, I haven't seen anyone come through.
Am I heard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for the delay. Is this what most schools use? Is this a system commonly used by most schools?
I believe what we found is this is the system that most smaller schools use. The large quotes we got from Infinite Campus and Power School, part of the reason they're so expensive is they service Chandler Unified, Phoenix Union, Tempe, Mesa, and same with Infinite Campus. And Tyler does a lot more of Great Hearts, Basis, a lot more charter schools with student populations under 500. They have plenty of schools in this state that use them, as well as Utah. They're based in Seattle is where the guy's been calling us from. So that's where his office is. I don't know if that's their home office, but pretty much the West Coast down are the states they're in, and they tend to be in smaller school districts.
There are like hundreds of systems on the market. There's probably 50 that work with the department. There's so many systems.
All right. Danielle, does that answer your question, or do you have any follow-up? Okay. All right, then. Well, I will move to approve the adoption of the upgraded Tyler Sys system along the terms that Mr. Maurizio described to us, which are a $7,500 approximately payment in January of 2022, and a follow-up approximately $7,500 payment in July of 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion?
Can you just tell me that last payment, July of what? It's 2023?
2022.
Okay. What was it? Okay.
You said 2023, correct, Greg?
Yeah, because it's not.
It's 2023.
July of 2023?
Yeah.
For the second payment?
Yes. That
Is
will
18
be the date we start and implement the program. We're starting the training in January of 22. We will train for 6 months. We will turn the switch on crossover on July 1st, 2023, and that's when the second payment is due. So it's spread out over next school year and the following school year. There's
So
nothing to this year's budget.
But so when you say July 2023, you mean July of the 2023 school year, not July of
Yes.
the year 2023.
Yes.
It'll be July. Okay, that's the confusion.
I apologize. Yes.
No, it's
The
Now I'm more
graduate code is-
Now I'm more confused. What year do I put?
2020.
Correct.
The actual calendar date is the July of 2022 when the second payment will be made for the implementation
Oh,
of the software
of
for school year
2023.
2023. Yes.
Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure I had that date right. Okay.
Couldn't be.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's good to have the clarity on when that money is going out the door. Okay. All those in favor? April, were you raising your hand? Yeah.
I saw
okay.
her hand. Yeah.
That was unanimous. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to our, the next thing we need to discuss and vote on approving. We received a proposal from Teresa after consultation with Peter Rennick, Joan Treadaway, Mr. Maurizio, and myself about what a contemplation exercise would look like for our school. And I believe Joan and Peter also forwarded on to her some ideas from a leading proponent of these contemplation exercises from the school in Colorado. And so she gathered all this information and put together a proposal, which I forwarded to all of you last week for your consideration. And for those watching, it is basically a start at the end of the school year and carry through the summer, the bulk of it. And there would be lots of little individual meetings at first with smaller groups, and then that would carry over. And that would result in a group of approximately 20 representatives meeting to do the contemplation exercise on behalf of the constituent components of our school community. So we would have parents and community, we would have board representatives, we would have faculty and staff representatives. And so that would add up to hopefully no more than 20 people so that we could have a productive discussion without having 150 people there trying to actually, talk at the same time and at length on these issues. And so there would be, then once we had selected those 20 people, we would have 8 weeks of meetings that would be public and viewable by everybody, but only those 20 people would actually be present and participating in them. And the meetings would happen on nights and weekends so that there wasn't any kind of appearance of favoring one group over another, and people who, like myself, for example, who don't work at the school could attend, and other board members could attend, and parents and community who, most people work Monday through Friday during the day. So this would give them the opportunity to participate as well without having to take time off from work. And then the overall goal of this is to, kind of assess where we are, and then talk about who we are and where we want to go, and try to reach some consensus on that and build trust from all these different components of the community, bringing them back together again, through repeated discussions and being vulnerable in front of each other, frankly, and learning to trust each other again and aligning on our mission, vision, and core values. So that's the proposal, and the total cost for each of these phases is it's a little over 8,000, I believe. Well, the final, yeah, $8,125, and that's Teresa and Joan and Peter will be the facilitators for this exercise. So that's the idea in broad strokes and the cost that they've come up with. So with that said, I open it up for discussion.
In the proposal, there's a asterisk at the call out at the end. It says it doesn't include any follow-up needs that will be determined upon wrapping up the contemplation exercise. Would that be voted on by the board, or would it be up to Frank to decide if we wanted to have any other follow-up, like a dollar value of maybe 100 or?
Yeah, I think it depends on the dollar value before it would require board approval for the expense. If it's under 5,000 and it's, you know, a few touch-in meetings and that kind of thing, I think that's in Frank's discretion to see if it's worth continuing. I know Teresa's recommendation is that building trust takes time, and, you know, continuous interaction with the same group of people to build that trust. So I think she's anticipating that there is going to be some need for a follow-up, but it's hard to predict now what level of need that's going to be. Is that going to be a once a month kind of thing? You know, whereas these are going to be weekly meetings for a couple of months in a fairly intense way.
You provided a very nice high-level summary. Do you think would be excessive repetition in reading the goal and objectives outlined in the contemplation exercise proposal?
Just reading them out loud?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm happy to. All right, so the goal is to begin the process of restoring and repairing wounded relationships within the Desert Marigold school community brought about by events within the last 2 years, changes in administration, staff, COVID-19, etc. The objectives are: 1, to bring members of all aspects of the community together, physically and or virtually, to collaborate on the future of Desert Marigold. 2, establish and implement healthy communication within the community, promoting a collaborative approach to future challenges and planning. And 3, to create a team representative of all members of the community to lead transformational change within DMS. The facilitators, as I mentioned, would be Teresa Marzoff, our former interim executive director, Joan Treadaway, and Peter Rennick. And we would have the following community member groups: faculty and staff, administration, parents/parent council, board members, contributors, donors, volunteers, and students and alumni.
Cool. Thank you.
Danielle, it looked like you were trying to say something, but then we couldn't hear you again.
Is this the very first one they've sent over for the pricing? Or has there been some negotiations prior to this one?
This is the first one that they've sent. We candidly have not pushed back on this price. It seems to me eminently reasonable based on the number of hours of work that I know is going to go into this.
Danielle, in my conversations with Teresa, because I've been on the phone with her a lot, asking questions specifically about certain things, and it is clear that price, because it's really going to end up being 3 to 3.5 months of work. It's going to go that far into the school year because of the amount of times we have to check back and see how it's going. So I'm with Greg that I don't think we would push back on that price just because of the amount of time she's going to put in to our site.
Excellent. That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Feels like a discounted rate, honestly.
I was just going to add, I think too, based on Teresa's experience with our school, she was with us for a short time, but I feel like she fell for us. And she's being paid, but this is love, I feel like she's invested. And so I feel like not only is it worth the price, but she's going to go above and beyond the same way that, Joan or Peter will, because they've been invested in our school for so long.
Yeah, reading it was very clear that there was a deep understanding and knowledge of what we have kind of going on and have had going on for the last couple of years that you wouldn't have from a typical third party.
yeah, there's definitely an efficiency we're gaining here. And I'll also add, this price includes Peter and Joan's time too. This is not just Teresa's time. So this is 3 experts' time that we're getting for 3.5 months. So this to me is an incredible deal, especially given the wealth of knowledge that these 3 people are coming in with already about our school specifically. Other thoughts? Mr. Tanner? Haven't heard from you yet on this one.
I wish I could get $8,000 for science equipment in the middle school. I think money needs to be spent on programming and money needs to be spent in equipment for the school. So while I am for healing, while I am for group work, I'm also for what's needed for the education of the children in the school. And I'm quite serious about that. And so I don't want that to go unrecognized.
Yeah,
And I think that's a priority for us to make sure that we are continuing with our programming, that we're looking to get a music teacher, that we're looking to get instrumental music teachers, that we're looking to get other individuals who can come in and help with the educational process of the children in our care. So I'm not trying to poo-poo anything here, far from it. But I do want to be certain that the education is not overlooked in the process.
Tanner, if I may ask, are there job listings currently for all those roles you're wanting? Do we have that in the works, or do we need some help with that?
It's still in the thought process at this point. I mean, those are budget items to hire those individuals.
Is it possible to get a concrete list so we can add that to our priorities?
Danielle, on Monday, Monique, who is taking over Priscilla, and I meet all day Monday to final out this year's budget, meaning this is what it's going to cost for the rest of the 8 weeks for our staffing and other costs. And then I will have a number of, here's our projected leftover, and here's our projection for what we're getting next year. So we can start building next year's budget. And what we typically do there is take this year's staffing. Example, we know we're going to have a first and all the way up to 8th grade. We're going to have 8th grade teachers. So I need to put their name on a line, and you start with what they made this year. You don't put in an increase yet. You just start with the costs that ran this year. And then you got to make decisions of, are we going to use money that are left over on salary increases? Are we going to use it on hiring other needs, other personnel needs, like a music teacher, like a pedagogical director, like an art teacher, the things that have been listed? And then we see if it fits in the budget. But we're not there yet. Monday is the day we will final out this year's kind of estimated costs of how much we might have left over, and then we go from there. I will work with LDC to make some priorities as to what's number one. What do we want, the strings teacher first? Do we want a pedagogical director first? Do we want salary increases for our staff? Those are things we have to talk in depth about and come up with a consensus for.
I would definitely like to come back to this topic, but I know we were mainly on the discussion of approving the contemplation exercise, but I'd very much like to come back to this subject because those programs have always been part of the core curriculum. Yes, they were extra expenses, but they've always been part of our core curriculum. I think they were mainly on pause because of virtual and the pandemic, but I certainly would like to see that implemented, and hopefully they are considered a priority. But if we can come back to that subject, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm happy to put that on our next board agenda, especially knowing that this meeting was coming Monday. Anything we can talk about that. And as we get closer to developing a budget for the next school year, those things will become more and more pressing. To your point, Mr. Tanner, I absolutely want, $8,000 for science equipment for the grades to further the educational mission of the school. And at the same time, I'm also hearing from many different segments, we need this contemplation exercise. I've been hearing that basically since I joined the board 2.5 years ago now. So I'm looking at our profit and loss statement as of the end of February, and it says we're 113,000 in the black, and this is a need that's been asked for a long time. So I think we potentially are in a position where we can do both, where we can help the grades and the teachers and the students get the educational needs met, and we can get the community fabric sewn back together in the way it needs to be. It's one of those rare moments where we might be able to have our cake and eat it too. At least as to these two issues. So, obviously the budget for the next school year is going to, play out and see what happens. But it seems like if things stay relatively close to the way they are now, we're going to have some extra money to play with for the next school year's budget and to prioritize some of these needs that have gone unmet for too long.
So are you guaranteeing money for middle school science equipment or any other pedagogical needs for the school? Is that what I'm hearing you say? Are you going on record at this time?
Well, I can't guarantee money for anything, especially not, without having set the budget for the next school year. But what I am saying is, if you look at where we are financially now versus where we expected to be, we're $113,000 better, plus we still have extra money to cover a lot of the COVID-related expenses that we're incurring. So it seems like we're going to have room to take care of some of these pedagogical needs that have gone unmet. Now, so can I guarantee science equipment for the middle school, I don't know that I can make that kind of statement right now because I don't know what all the other unmet needs in the school are. And I don't know how the rest of that money is going to apply to all the things Frank mentioned, plus, you know, all the other grades and sectors of the school that are going to want a piece of that pie. So can I promise you that today? No, I can't. But what I can promise you is a good faith effort to try based on an excess that we have.
But you are aware that we've had, as Danielle stated, the music teacher was clearly a part of the pedagogy, as well as instrument teachers starting in the 4th grade and going up into the 8th grade, as well as other pedagogical provisions for the students for the school. I mean, that's clearly, you agree that that's our first priority.
Yes, the education of the students is, of course, the first priority. But so how do we make that happen? I think there's a bigger picture here too. It's not all just, are the supplies in the classroom? It's, you know, because it's a Waldorf school, it's not like we look at each teacher on an island and say, okay, how is, you know, it's a community who's coming together to bring this education to the students. And if we as a community are feeling shattered and broken, and, you know, if we haven't been able to come together in a meaningful way, I mean, in a year because of COVID, and, you know, a year and a half prior to that because of, you know, turnover, to put it mildly, that I think is an impediment to the social, emotional education of the kids and of the well-being of the community. So I don't think we can just extract that and say that's not part of it. I think they're both part of it.
Can't we make a plan but make a plan to what Frank was saying, like actually go to the LDC and the faculty and get this list and see what's on it and where it sits and how we want to prioritize things so that we can act quickly, for lack of better words, when we do find out how much funding we have, and also probably keeping in mind that we want to keep some sort of emergency fund around as well, or maybe start establishing a small emergency fund. But like, can we just agree to have a plan to start doing that, and knowing that we will absolutely be investing in equipment for faculty and students and trying to find instructors if there's enough money for that, for like music teachers and stuff? I thought we still had a music teacher. I didn't know that was not a thing anymore.
All things being said, and Mr. Tanner is correct about the prioritizing of the teachers and the science equipment, or any supplies for that matter. The 8,000 that we're talking about for the contemplation doesn't even get us a fourth of one of those staff members. Meaning, if we didn't do the contemplation and we saved 8,000, that doesn't mean we can hire one of those teachers with 8,000. It's not even close to what we need to get one of those elective teachers. Now, it would be enough to get science supplies. That's a true statement. But it wouldn't touch a personnel piece.
I'm ready to vote, and I definitely want to add this subject to another agenda so we can explore it much more.
I had trouble catching all of that, Danielle. You said you're ready to vote?
I said I'm ready to vote, and I certainly would like to add this subject to a future agenda so we can explore it much more. And I'm definitely grateful for the teachers and faculty we have that have their hearts in the right place and their attentions in the right place. And for those that we still have and those that we've lost, it's you know, we've always been a special place. So it would be nice to get that atmosphere again. And at this.
Any other thoughts on the contemplation exercise or the cost?
I think a lot of things. It's hard when you're writing and thinking of your thoughts at the same time and trying to piece them together quickly. I think the proposal that they sent is really well thought out. And I think that you can tell that it was written for us. This isn't something that was done for some other giant, corporation and they just slapped our name on it. This is customized for us. Number two, Gregory was talking about how this, will affect our community. Well, also our faculty and staff are part of our community, and there's been hurt among parents and teachers and staff and the board and on and on and on and on and on. With this bit of healing that is the end goal, we will not only be able to move on from that emotionally, which will help us to free up our, every other ability that we have within us without this weight on our shoulders, to then reach out to one another and get the help that we need for all of these other things, not necessarily, fundraising, but just reaching out. Hearing that Mr. Tanner and the rest of the middle school needs science equipment, maybe a parent listening who has healed from this exercise will say, hey, I know so-and-so and such from this school, and they're throwing away a bunch of beakers. I'm going to ask if I can have, all of those things have a ripple effect, as well as, our staff being able to get along better, our parents being able to get along better. When people are happy and feel good about each other, they work better together. And that to me is the ultimate goal. And that will change everything. I think, especially with, the history that we have, I think this is our best bet. And I think that it will, it's not miraculously going to solve all of our problems overnight, but it's not going to hurt us. I think this will help in many other areas that maybe we haven't even thought of yet. And that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, not hearing anything else, I will move to approve engaging Teresa Marzoff, Peter Rennick, and Joan Treadaway to lead the school in a contemplation exercise according to the proposal they submitted at a cost for the first 3 phases of $8,125.
I'll second.
I was like, was that a motion? Yes.
Thanks, Dan. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right. 4-1, the motion carries. Right. Which takes us to Parent Council. Michelle, if you could tell us what's going on with Parent Council, please.
Hi, thank you for having me. So our barbecue / feast is on Friday. That I'm sure you all have seen the Parent Square and information from Frank. We will be serving from 10:45 in the morning till about 12:45 or so, 12:30. we sent out a request for donations for food, which is mostly full, and quite frankly, those filled up pretty fast. And the volunteer slots are almost full. We feel that we've met our minimum for it, so we will definitely be able to pull it off with the amount of people that we have. But a couple more are more than welcome. Thank you, everybody who has donated, whether it's your time or items or money. Some people did donate money also. We also have a small gift for the remote learners so they don't feel left out. We will be putting that out tomorrow and hoping that those that are coming for picture day, the remote learners that are coming for picture day can pick up their small gift at that time. We also have a fundraiser scheduled for, it's a restaurant fundraiser next Wednesday, the 24th at Rubio's on 24th Street and Baseline in the Fry's parking lot. It's from 2 to 8 p.m., figuring that those that are picking up after school can head over there if they'd like to. The flyer will be posted on Parent Square and on Facebook and social media outlets. We are recruiting for the Parent Council leadership for next year. So if you're interested, please contact us, but you should also be getting information on Parent Square regarding that too. So look out for that. And one last thing, somebody brought to our attention that there is a small grant available through the Safeway Foundation. It's between the first year it says between $1,000 and $5,000. And Parent Council was looking into applying for that grant. In order to help expedite the grant, it's recommended that you have an employee who's directly related, whether it's an alumni or a current student or just a family friend, somebody who knows, what DMS is about, that works for Safeway or Albertsons because they're related. So if you know anybody, please let us know and we can hopefully get that. But we do have a name of somebody who works for them. If that's not necessarily in our community, but might be able to help us out. So, and it's not a requirement either. It's just a recommendation. So, and I think that's about it.
Well, thank you so much for all of the work you've been doing, especially on this barbecue feast that's happening on Friday. I think that is just rekindling something that hasn't happened for way too long at the school. And I'm heartened to hear that the donations filled up quickly and the volunteer slots filled up quickly. And that, I think everybody is excited to get back to seeing each other and doing stuff on campus and
Yes.
sharing this magic that we have. So thank you for leading the charge on that.
Absolutely. And I wanted to also say thank you to the leadership committee, Laura Heaney, Nina, Kirsten, and Jen Wheeler-Smith for helping in that the planning and all of that stuff. So thank you all.
Gregory, if I can add a thank you as well. I've had the pleasure of working with Michelle and Laura on this for a couple of weeks now. Actually, almost since I got here, we started talking about this. And their attitude is just so positive and so energetic. And they couldn't wait for a project that they could jump into as parents. And like you said, get back into the groove and in the things that we know we do and we do well. And so I sent you guys an invitation, board members. If you could stop by for lunch, you're welcome to. We're just excited to roll this out on Friday. And again, thank you to the parents and Michelle and Laura, especially for helping us at the forefront with it. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to share. It's been fun to watch those signups filling up. Like Gregory was talking about, it feels like a rekindling. And I'm on the opposite side of it. My child is still in virtual, and we won't be participating due to high risk. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see it happening. I'm excited that other people could go, and that there's just this new energy. And it's, in addition, it makes me giggle because I met Frank when he asked to take a tour of the school, and he walked through the garden and looked at all of the barbecues and went, "Oh, we could have a barbecue right here." Like, that was one of the first things. He was just so thrilled that we had a campus with an outdoor kitchen, and he was like, "Can we do that? Is that something we could do?" And it just, his eyes lit up, and he was so excited to do that. So I'm happy that it's finally coming to fruition, and you're making his dreams come true and all the children's dreams. And it's going to be great. I'm excited for everyone. So thank you to Frank and to Michelle and the rest of the parent council who's putting this together. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So one other thing on the agenda related to parent council, we heard that there may be somebody on parent council who's interested in also being a member of the board, and our current board procedures say you can't do both. You can be on the board, but you can't also be on parent council. And I asked about the history there, and the response I got was, well, we just wanted to avoid a conflict of interest. And it was two different sectors. One is governance and one is community engagement. The thought was those should be separate things. I think that's worth revisiting. So other board members, be curious to hear your thoughts about that. Personally, we already have some mingling of roles. I'm a parent, I have two kids at the school. April and Dan have kids at the school. Danielle, I can't remember. I'm sorry. But I think you do too.
High school.
High school, yeah. And then of course, Mr. Tanner is a teacher. So, I mean, we're all wearing a couple hats here. And to me, somebody who's engaged with the community and engaged on the board is the most trivial conflict I can think of. But I'm willing to be convinced the other way if somebody has strong feelings about this. But to me, community engagement and being on the board are practically synonymous.
I think one of the questions on the interview is there a conflict of interest? We all had to answer that question. And I think that it's really up to the person applying if they feel like they can set appropriate boundaries and do, both things. There are lots of different positions in parent council, and everyone has different capabilities and weaknesses and strengths. And so I think it would be up to what they have to say and our vote based on that. But I agree, Gregory. I feel like we're all of us are wearing several hats. I don't think being a part of parent council is any different.
Gregory, could you tell me where the rules that statement is made?
So it's in a funny place. It's not in our bylaws. It's in the procedures document we made for board members. And in the other membership guidelines, there's one sentence that says, no board member may be a class rep or an elected parent council member.
Well, you're a lawyer. Surely you don't go before a judge and say that mingling somehow trumps the law.
Well, no, I don't. But this is a materially different situation than a formal legal conflict of interest. This doesn't make sense in the context of our school, and I think we already have people who are filling multiple roles. If we were going to take a hard line as an organization and say we're not going to have overlap, we would have a board of directors composed of people who are paid, number one, and number two, don't have any other affiliation with the school so that they could provide, independent oversight. But that's, from what I understand, that's never the direction we've taken at the school. We've always wanted to have some, people coming from parts of the school to serve on the board so that we could hear different voices from the parts of the community on the board. Which means you're going to have people who are in multiple positions.
I offer no rebuttal to that other than to say that that's lawful, and for some reason it says it's stated there as you read to us. Wouldn't it be better to change that than to do something that goes against the what's written as a statement and trying to make some sort of subjective case for who should do what?
Absolutely. I agree. And where I was hoping this discussion would lead is to a decision to amend our membership procedures simply to remove that statement as a prohibition. And if we do it tonight in advance of our application deadline, April 1, then we're not changing the rules midstream or making any one-off exception. It applies the same to everybody.
It is a bit of gerrymandering, that said, but I'd prefer to do that rather than to teach lawlessness.
Well, I'm with you there. I'm for the rule of law.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. What's the idea behind a classroom rep not being allowed to be on the school board? That seems like even more arbitrary than elected parent council member.
I would
If
just
teachers are allowed.
I would just
Sorry,
like to a reminder that when the school first started, it was started by parents who were the teacher, and they just probably didn't have enough numbers to fulfill all the roles.
Yeah, we may have grown out of this role.
But we don't know that, though. That's conjecture, I would think.
Well, it came up quite a bit when we rewrote the bylaws for parent council. So that was firsthand from some of the founders at that time.
I see.
Well, I'm not hearing a lot of objection to changing the rule, just to not violating the rule we currently have. So unless there are other thoughts, I'll make a motion to move to amend our board membership procedures document to remove the prohibition of a board member also serving as a class rep or an elected parent council member.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right, that's unanimous. The motion carries. So we will issue a revised document that will go out with the email we usually send around this time, reminding people of the upcoming deadline and here are the procedures. So Michelle, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, which takes us to Mr. Maurizio and any other updates on the school operations we haven't already touched on tonight?
Well, yes, a really huge one. I know I announced at the last board meeting how lucky we were that Deb Paolo was able to secure 225 laptops and chargers. Well, they got delivered yesterday. We have them all. Dan was able to see one of them to take a look at it and say, okay, is this the real deal or was this some funny business? And Dan was happy to report back, and you can nod, Dan. No, this is a legitimate laptop, probably better than the ones we've had out with the kids and a couple of teachers for the last couple of years. It is a little bit of an upgrade. So again, shout out to Deb Paolo. She did awesome. We have them. Deb is trying to secure, we're buying 6 carts. We're going to do it right away. So we protect these and keep them locked up and charged. And we have found some spots on campus that are close to the classroom. So any one of those classrooms can use those computers for Galileo or AZ Mirror or anything else they want, because they'll be literally 20 feet from their classroom door. And that is just the huge kudo of the day. It's done. It's behind us. We have them, and we are very fortunate and very happy to have them.
And I did see board members that Deb asked us if we could write a thank you from the board to the group that facilitated this happening. I think we very much should do that, and I'll take the lead on working with Deb to draft that and get it out. And I'll circulate it to everybody before it goes.
And I did get to meet the generous lady who delivered them to us. She actually does this. This is her job. She works with schools and gets laptops to kids. So of course I was very appreciative in talking to her, but we will write something right from the site as well, a nice letter to them. And Greg, I took up your idea on, I guess we haven't thanked our donors for tax credits in quite some time. And we're formulating a formal letter. And Jessica got me the list today of all the people who donated this year. And we will officially, in writing, thank them for their generosity as well.
I kept my very first thank you for tax credits, and it is a crayon or pencil sketch of the farmhouse.
Oh, wow. That's very creative. Huh.
Well, excellent news on both fronts.
You saw the plans for construction, for the ideas for construction, and I have touched base with Willamang, which is the company who was putting the quotes together for me, and he informed me he still needs another 2 weeks before he has anything in writing. But as soon as I get that, I, of course, will share all that with you guys so that you can put a priority on what we should or could or even want to do. So that's just a process that's moving on now. It takes some time. It's just one of those balls in the air that I'm waiting for that phone call.
Yeah, those things do take time. So we'll look forward to that when it comes.
Yep. I think that's all I have to report right now. Am I leaving something out that I told you guys that I should be mentioning, or?
In your report to us, you mentioned you're still waiting on the approval of a fundraiser invoice. I think we still have some work to do. Danielle circulated some things today on that. So we can take the next couple of weeks to digest that, and we'll put it on our agenda for next week.
I'm just leaving that on there as a reminder that I know we want to do something.
Yeah.
And so that just reminds me every week to say, where are we? Have we made any progress? What's the next step? So I'll keep that on just until we have something more concrete. But I don't want any of us to just forget about it because we get busy. So
I just had one thing to add because it touched on what April had said about the contemplation proposal. There is one proposal that completely looks like it was written for us. Someone who doesn't have history but did their time and research to incorporate some of our ideals, values, and even put in some pictures that are similar to our campus. So I thought that was a nice touch that April mentioned today that corresponds with that particular proposal.
was there anything else on there, Greg, that my mind is blanking that I wrote to you?
No, if there was, I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all then. It was a quick report this time. We've covered so many in the rest of the meeting that we don't need to rehash it. So.
Yeah.
I have a kind of a related question. In those 260 computers, is there like a need for like a computer lab for the high school that those potentially might be applicable to?
Well, it's 225.
225, sorry. Yeah.
And we actually decided today, Deb, myself, and we walked over and talked with Christy, and we are going to put 2 carts in the high school, not one. We're kind of separating carts, 1 in each area, 1 per 3 grades. But the high school, we're going to give them 2 of their own carts that they can use anytime they want. As the high school, as you know, uses computers more regularly than the grades do. Grades count on it for the testing situations, but the high school does more just because they're older students and are preparing things that are a lot of college work. The essays they're writing, it's all done with computers now. And so they were excited to hear. We even have a room to lock it up in. And again, it's just a matter of wheeling the cart into whichever classroom needs it. So yeah, they were very happy to hear they're going to have that. So they'll actually have 60 computers for right now 45 students. Now, hopefully we'll break that 60-year barrier for the beginning of the school year. And then we'll just move some more in there because we are going to have extra computers on campus. So that's okay.
Are there extra insurance requirements that go along with that too for coverage?
Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. As long as it's an asset of ours, it's considered insured by our company. When we roll over the new insurance, I think they're going to ask questions of our of Aspire and saying like things like, what is our asset worth? Because that's they go by the insurance. I could be wrong, but I think that's what happens.
They should. And the computers only have a lifespan of a certain length of time. So they do, that money comes off every year as well. And should be budgeted to have replacements for 3 to 5 years out typically as well.
And just so you know, the threshold on the fixed assets is 1,000 per unit. So most likely they're under that 1,000.
Oh, they are.
Go on the actual asset list that will be just expensed as they come on.
Okay. Yeah, they're not worth 1,000 a piece. I don't believe in their state. They're used, and there are a couple. There's touchscreens, but there are a couple year, at least a year, a lower end model that's probably about a year and a few months old. So.
Any other questions for Frank? Okay. Anything on COVID-19 we need to talk about today? And there's not a whole lot for us to decide anymore. Go ahead, Frank.
I had something on that. You asked me last board meeting, and I believe a parent was working with me, Danielle Ippolito, on the air purifiers, and you asked me to look into pricing for that. I have gone through the company that I was sent to look into, and I know Dan sent some information as well. I have emailed them 3 times. I have left 3 messages. The website lists all the great things it does, but no pricing. And so I was emailing and calling to get pricing because we have 16 classrooms. We would need to put one in every classroom, I would assume. And I just have not heard back on a cost. Of course, we could use the ESSER 2 if we chose to on something like that. But I don't even have a guesstimate for you at this time because they're just not getting back to me. I'll continue. I don't know what else to do but call and email. I just don't know how else to get a hold of them but those 2 ways, and they're just not calling me back.
They probably have inventory issues and capacity issues because of COVID, honestly. I mean, I would wonder if that was the case.
Now, I can go another direction and try some that you can buy from Home Depot or Lowe's, but this particular model was recommended by a couple of parents that it was really a very good model that other schools are using. And so I stuck with them first to try and get more information of pricing, how many they could deliver, how soon we could get them, all that good stuff. And I'm just not having any luck. But if you want me to try Lowe's for something else, I will.
Yeah, I'm skeptical about, some kind of lower end model that's meant for one room in somebody's house versus a commercial grade piece of equipment that's meant for continuous use for, 8, 12 hours with 20 to 30 people in a room. It's just a different grade of equipment.
I would agree.
Lifespan is going to be different. So, I mean, if there are other commercial options that are out there that are worth exploring it, I think that's worth doing. But just a regular consumer product, I just don't think that's going to fit the school's needs.
Well, I'll keep trying with them, or I'll try and find a commercial model, and I'll get back to you guys on the next board meeting.
Great, thank you. All right. Well, not hearing anything else about COVID, which, what a relief. Let's move on to approving our minutes from the last meeting. So I will move to approve the minutes of the March 3rd, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any other discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Motion carries. And mentioned it a couple times now, but our board application, if you are interested in being a board member, is due on April 1st. The procedures and everything is online under the governing board section of our website. If you have any question about what's required or any questions about what it's like to serve as a member or the application process, please just email us, board@desertmarigold.org, or you can find each of our individual emails online on the website too. So we welcome your questions, comments, and of course your application. Anything on the board's calendar, April, that we have coming up that we need to talk about?
I don't think so, but let me pull it up just in case. We have at the end of April, which I know is still far away. At one point, you had me add the RSF quarterly reports, so that is noted at the end of April. So something to start thinking about now. And other than that, it's just our board meetings and board application deadlines and interviews that are coming up.
Very good. All right. Thank you for that reminder. And with that, I think we are done. So I will move to adjourn.
I'll just keep seconding everything.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. The motion carries. Dan, would you mind reading the closing verse for us this evening?
Be happy to. The most important tasks for humankind today and in the future is that we should learn to live together and understand one another. If this human fellowship is not achieved, all talk of development is empty. Rudolf Steiner.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you being here. We will see you. I think we have an extra week off in between our board meetings this time, so we'll see you in April.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Night.
Thank you. Good night.